you talked about that article where it was confirmed that Sony has reached out to the development community, and they didn't specifically point to just the GTA maker and Take-Two or EA. It's they're speaking to the development community,
Right.
and in doing so, they want these pro versions of games for their pro version of the PlayStation 5.
Right.
Now, what's interesting is this thing, we're walking on a razor's edge right now, and I'm gonna tell you why, folks. Sony was one of the first platforms to adopt $70. We heard they wanted to go to $80. Is there a world, Viking, where not only will PlayStation 5 Pro games be more, $5 or $10 more, but older games, like let's say, for instance, your God of War Ragnarok, do you think that's just going to get the free upgrade for your PlayStation 5 Pro? The answer is you're out of your effing mind if you think so, because they're right now charging people $10 every time there's a new version for the PlayStation 5 of some old ass game where you get it for free on Xbox through smart delivery. And I'm telling you, folks, I'm telling you right now, Sony is going to Sony. What are your thoughts on that, Viking?
I kind of like, I'm gonna be devil's advocate here a little bit. I want to take a bet. I think that the perception of that would be so horrible. Like, I'm not going to put it past them. They've done it with PS4 to PS5, but they've never done it with mid-gen, I don't think. So if they did it with mid-gen refreshes, like a $10 upgrade to Spider-Man 2 so you can web some more webs, I don't see it. I don't think that they will, because the perception of that would be so. I think even the media would be.
Horizon Forbidden West says, "Hey, they tried to do it there, and people called them out, and then they last minute called it back."
I think it'll happen. I think that would happen again. I don't think I think we all talk about the PlayStation tax break that they get. I don't think that. I don't think the media would have it, like, to be honest with you. If they did do an upcharge for, I just bought this damn game, and you promised me on the PlayStation 5 I would get this amount of frames at this resolution. It's not there. Now you're giving to me with the PS5 Pro when I had to pay $600-700 for, and now you're going to charge me more to get the exact same thing you promised me.
I mean, to his point, I don't think they've ever done it for the mid-gen, right? So PS4 to PS4 Pro. I think what you're talking about, Kay, is the
4 to 5.
The 4 to 5, exactly.
No,
you can buy the 4 version.
I completely understand that. That makes perfect sense, and maybe I misspoke. I don't. Again, it's Sony being Sony.
No, you're right. I wouldn't put it past them at all. I wouldn't put it past them. I don't.
So this is the way they will do it. Is they'll say, we now have the remastered, whatever version that has all this extra DLC that you already could buy. That has the upgraded version, but we won't do that for the base version. So if you want to play with the higher everything, you have to buy the super duper $90 version. And here you go. Here it is. Because look, they're cash strapped. This is a great way to get people to pay for a game they've already bought again, right?
Yes.
So why wouldn't they do it? They want to get money from you again. So why wouldn't they
could disguise it, Hargeet, as, like, perfect example, like whenever they did the Valhalla thing for God of War, right? Instead of making that free, give me something more than just the extra frames or the PlayStation 5 Pro version of it. If they mask it with, like, you get more skins and New Game Plus and blah 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 blah.
Exactly.
Plus you get this. Yeah, they will charge $10, but they actually just masked the pro version for DLC, I guess you would call it.
And then the upgrade cost will be to upgrade to that new version that gives you all these extra features, which might be $20 or something like that. So that's probably how they will. I would be surprised if they didn't do that for some of their games at least.
But what's came out that's been just PS5 only? We had Spider-Man, we had Ragnarok, and
Ragnarok was cross-gen.
Oh, not Ragnarok. Damn.
Yeah, so it was Demon Souls, it was
Ratchet and
Returnal, Ratchet and Clank, and then Astro, and we now have Spider-Man 2. I think that's it. I think that's all
yeah,
they have.
that's they don't really have much to go off of to do an upgrade thing, man. So that's
Looking, by the way, just at their own first parties, right? They
I'm
have
just
other
looking at
games.
because like other publishers will be able to do whatever they want to
Yeah.
do, right? And then nobody's going to blame Sony for that, right? Like nobody's going to blame Sony for Madden adding a PS5 Pro version of the game or a boost to 10% or whatever the hell it would be. Like nobody would go after Sony for that because Sony didn't do it. They provided the tool for it to happen, but they didn't make that happen. But as far as Sony first party, when it comes to PS5 exclusives, I don't know. Like the Stellar Yams might get a new game. Is it launching with New Game Plus?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think
Actually.
Okay, well that'll probably be one of the first ones. New Game Plus, some extra skins to make the yams more yammy, and then then the
slider for jiggle physics. Slider.
Are you saying that they're going to get better
The
40
extra
Ds? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're going to get 40 Ds in better frames?
Just make them yams more yammy.
That's right. You know what I can see? I can see GTA. Do you want to play the VRR enabled version, which is hashtag 45 frames per second? Hey, here's $10 extra because we can't hit 60. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's.
John Wolf said, "I'll buy that." Of course you would, John.
Of course John big. He's not even ashamed about it. He don't care. Listen, Hargeet, I want to go back to you about this. This again, it's a conversation. It's a lot of hypotheticals. Yes, they didn't charge $10 for upgrades for PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 4 Pro. They didn't. But this is you said it, a cash-strapped Sony. And if there's anyone, they're the masters of marketing. You know what they're also the masters of? And that would be the nickel and diming of the world. And they love to nickel and dime you for everything. And I'm just saying that when you hear the story that Viking referred to about Sony already going to all of the publishers and all the developers and saying, hey, we want you to make this pro version mode for these games. Now, whether they're exclusive to PlayStation or they're not, there's a cost that's added to that. You're asking these developers to make a pro version. It's going to cost more to make that version. How is Sony going to pay for that extra cost? They're going to lean on the consumer as they have always done. And I do honestly believe that maybe it doesn't affect the current $76.43 if you live in New York price for your new PlayStation 5 Pro game, right? But I think it's very safe to assume that your older games in no way, shape, or form are going to benefit from being played on a PlayStation 5 Pro unless you pay for it, because they did that to you with your PlayStation 4 to your PlayStation 5. They charged you $10. Because of this Pro version, I would not be surprised, Hargeet, that if it was a $15 charge.
Yeah, I mean, it very well could be, right? It just depends on how they package it. I don't think it's going to be a straight just, hey, you have to pay $15 to get the extra capability. I think it will be more, here's like some new stuff we did with the game. And with that new stuff, we also happen to give it the PS5 Pro treatment. Mm-hmm. And with that, you can pay the extra $20, $30, $50, whatever it is. And you will get extra content plus the upgraded visuals, blah, 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 right? Unlike the smart delivery process where the upgraded visuals just come for free. Right. I think that's kind of one of the things. Now, I wouldn't expect it for every game. I think they'll do that for some games. They'll just do it for free. However, this is a very cash-strapped company, and you're going to have to, like, what is Hiroki Totoki's mindset when you're looking at this, right? Are they making money off of this console when they sell it? If they are, it's going to be very expensive. So if it's a $700 console, then who cares? They can just say, fine, we're making money off the console if people buy it. the chances are they're looking to have people buy this console and then see content that they'll want to pay for, right?
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, you have to make them pay for it, right? So how do they get that money? They have to get that money by charging them for it, and that's going to be the headache they run into, right? So if there's nothing there, then that's not going to be a financially good position to be in. So they're going to try to charge you somehow, right? So my guess would be that's what they're going to do. They're going to say, hey, let's give you a bundle that has a bunch of content, but it also happens to have the extra capabilities of the PS5 Pro. You want it? Pay for it. And even if you have the game, you got to pay an upgrade fee to get the new content, which happens to get unlock the capabilities of the PS5 Pro. Now, again, I don't think it's going to be universal. I think it's going to be something that's going to be like the bigger games. They'll just do that, and people will pay for it. They just will. And but they need the money. And I'm not knocking them for doing this. It is what it is. They need the money. I get it. So if that's the way they're going to do it, they're going to do it, right? And if the market doesn't push them the other way, that's up to consumers. Consumers can always say, well, I don't like your model. I'm going to go to the competitor. And we're waiting here. You can go ahead and buy an Xbox, guys. You don't have to pay for these upgrades. They're free. So you can choose the opposite and say, no, I'm not going to pay your upgrade fee, Sony. Or you can go ahead and pay it, right? And if you pay it, you reward them for doing it. Guess what they'll do? They'll keep doing it. Right.
Yes.
So that's the way it is. So the market leaves it open to you. You choose as the consumer what you want. If you like that way, fair enough. Go pay the extra fees, get your upgrades. On the PC world, and this is why the PC folks keep saying this, you never pay for upgrades. You know why? It's just PC. You buy new hardware, you can just use the hardware. You never have to pay for an upgrade. You already own the game. If it has more capability, you just use the capabilities. It's just there, right? So this is just a console type thing, and Sony is the master of doing these kind of things. I guess I could say to some level, Nintendo is worse in that they make you pay for the game again.
Yep, they sure
on
do.
the next version, so that you have to buy the same game you've owned 4 times.
Full price.
For a 5th time. Full price. So they're even worse. But hey, this is what it is, right? So. But yeah, look, as far as consumer friendliness, it's just blatantly obvious. Xbox is going into the very consumer friendly territory, and Sony is kind of in the middle, and Nintendo's the worst. And if you're gonna expect something here, Sony's going to try to charge you. They need money. That's just the way it is. You can look at the financials. You can look at what the Wall Street folks are saying about them. They need cash. They need money. So they're going to try to charge you something. I would expect to see a slate of games that are coming out with remastered, whatever edition that come out with the PS5 Pro. And there'll be a slight upgrade fee if you want to upgrade the version you have to that version, right? So, and that's how you're going to get those upgraded visuals. Again, I think there'll be a couple that they'll just give you as freebies, but there'll be some that they will charge. The bigger games, they'll probably charge you.
And you know what's crazy? You'd think that they would offer these upgrades for free if you were, like, let's say, I don't know, $160 a year subscriber to PlayStation Plus.
Yep.
Like, that wouldn't be part of the perks. There's a lot of things that they don't get. If hell, they still don't get MLB The Show, which is freaking bonkers.
It's crazy.
Asante, let's get to you on this, man. You said it before. Sony's gonna Sony, right? But are they really going to Sony? Do you think that they're so cash strapped that obviously, you got to remember, ladies and gentlemen, they're coming off of the PlayStation 5 selling great, right? What was it? 56, 57 million sold. Awesome. Mm-hmm. But they took a bath on the PlayStation VR 2.0. Like, they lost millions on that. It's so bad. And it's sitting on shelf in so many stores, they stopped production on it, right? There's a problem. Do you see them nickel-and-diming the fans?
I mean, that's what they do, right? They nickel and dime the fans. They have been for some time now. But to Hargy's point, I'm not seeing them doing that for foam stars. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, you'll get it for the God of War Ragnarok.
You'll get it for
Horizons,
right?
Or
you'll get it. You'll probably get it for the yams. You may get it for the yams, but but as we've said, and Nintendo has been brought up as well. The more you do that, the more they go, hey, it works, and the more they keep doing that, right? you know, and while it may look like Xbox is giving away the store, like you've seen those memes online, I've seen them as well. You see the third place winner kissing babies and and number one is Xbox, and underneath it says profit, right? That's the mark of success. They'll just sit there like this while the third place finisher is like, I'm losing it all, even though at the end of the day they're not making the money, the margins are slim, right? And we've also heard Totoki speak. One thing I will say, and Hargeet brings it up, and I think it is an interesting point. They are cash strapped more than they have been, and there are different people in the room now, right?
Yes.
I've said this in the past. We always talk about them like pick your favorite sports team, but the leadership in that sports team changes a lot, even though the jerseys stay the same. Doesn't mean the same mindset is there, right? People are screaming and bitching about Square Enix not putting their games everywhere. I think they're screaming and bitching about a historical eventuality that's never going to happen again, right? Because they've already seen their money gone. You're not going to have to complain anymore. Square is going everywhere, right? I think there's some of that in this soup as well. There's a world where Totoki ain't having that, right? Totoki
God. Okay.
Oh, please. What's up?
I don't know why something you said just brought this to me, because you said the adults are in the room now.
That's right. Yes, sir.
What? Okay, hear me out. They don't lock
Let's
it.
go. An epiphany live on the air, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go.
They don't lock it. This might be stupid. So, but
speak on it, sir.
They don't lock it behind DLC.
Mm-hmm.
They lock it behind PlayStation Plus to get their subscription numbers up.
Could very well
be. Would be super interesting, sir.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yubi does that. Hey, you want the deluxe blah 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 edition? You can have it day one in the subservice. Oh, you want the extra slider? Well, you're at half of a resolution on ray tracing. Now you get the pro version. You get the full frame of resolution. Yeah, that's exclusive to our subservice. It is a possibility, right?
Because you get monthly money for that.
That's right. You know as well as I do, they have a section for all their exclusives. They have a section for all their stuff, right? This is a money play, right? Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is don't expect them to be craven in their money pursuits like they have been, because those were different leaders, right? These guys who are in place now are just this straight path to money, right? This is the reason why I say there's a world where Sony proper accepts the Game Pass bag and puts their games on Game Pass for PC, because that's a straight line to money, right? The older leadership would never do that because we want ours to be the best. But the new leadership that wants a straight line to money and doesn't have to port their games, if it's a game that's on PC, and I'm sure we're going to talk about them putting their version of trophies on.
We're going to get to that next. Yes.
If it's a straight line to money, I mark my words. I'm saying it here. You may not see it on console because that requires porting and it requires effort. But on their PCs, their PC offerings, straight line to a bag, they are taking that bag because they don't care about your mark of success, which is a la crush the console warriors. No, they need dough, right?
Until Asante, the Epic Store shows up on Xbox.
which by the way, they also own a stake in. So, it is what it is. There's a lot of WWE going on right now. You know what I mean? In the back room, they're going, well, you're going to hit me first, and I'm going to hit you second. No diddy. It's going to happen that way. Today, we find ourselves in a different world, right?
Yeah.
We do. So in the short term, will they nickel and dime you? Oh, I don't doubt that they'll nickel and dime you. But as the Black Viking is saying, they will find interesting ways for it not to hit your mark of, this is injustice. No, it's part of my subscription. Or hey, they'll find a way. Or Hargeet saying they'll throw all the microtransactions they sold you on before. They'll put them all in a bundle and say, see, here's the new ultra special edition, and by the way, it also gives you these frames. Extra $10-15.
Yeah.
Possible.
It's listen, I don't doubt it. Again, Sony is gonna Sony. They're gonna figure out a way to take your money from you. I do like the way you broke it down with the them being craven or not about it. Now that Totoki is in the room, he's running the show. He's a money guy. He's gonna want to get as much money extracted from the consumer as possible. Do they do a better job? don't know. I have
Remains
no
to be seen.
confidence.
Yeah, remains to
Yeah.
be seen.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Let's. I'm gonna stick with UK. So some big news. If you are someone that have been waiting for instance, you don't own a PlayStation 5. Um, you buy everything on PC because as a PC gamer, you have everything at your fingertips. If you have a good rig, if you have a powerful rig, you're getting all the frames, you're getting all the sliders, you're getting the shaders, you're pretty much doing whatever you want on a PlayStation 5 game that has been launched into the PC platform. And there's been quite a few of really big ones. We learned today that moving forward, there is going to be a trophy system layered over the games that are launching onto PC. And the first one that is happening for is one of the ones the most sought after by many people in this community, Ghost of Tsushima, which is a game that I platinum. That game is legendary in every form or fashion. I absolutely loved it. I don't have a PC. I don't think even if I did, I would run through it again. I enjoyed my time with it. Like I said, I did platinum it. But besides that, I want to bring in Mr. Badbit into the conversation. Now, Joe's not here. And Joe was responding to someone that is pushing a narrative that was pushed upon onto Xbox. When Xbox games went over to PC. Remember, there was a big kerfuffle, if you will. Okay. So we keep hearing that day and date is imminent for PC and PlayStation 5 games. How soon? Well, no one really knows but Sony. But the talk of the town is it's going to be much sooner than it is going to be later. This person on again, I don't know if they're a troll or not, but I'm not going to give their name. Says, do you think PlayStation's push onto PC devalues the PlayStation 5 console? Like it makes it less special to own one. And Joe responds and he says, PlayStation games on PC devalues the console is a bad argument to me. Do PC games that come to PlayStation 5 devalue Steam? No. Sony needs to adapt to the changing market. Early access on console, for example, you got to go where the customers are, and that landscape is changing fast. Let's talk about it, man.
And that is the reason why Badbit is always welcome on any of the networks that we are on, because the man speaks truth.
Sharp tool, yes.
Right? The man, BitCloud Gaming, they rep the PlayStation proudly, but they will speak truth because that exactly is truth, right? And while you were setting up the story, I was grabbing the credit card because it's time to pay for Ghost of Tsushima, which I am glad to repay and replay that game because, like you, to me that game is
it's chef's kiss in every aspect.
Amazing.
That's my favorite PlayStation game from like the last 10
bar
years,
none.
Man.
Honestly, Viking, like people are like, oh, God of War. I like God of War. Spider-Man, I like. Ghost of Tsushima is their whole cloth, newly invented IP that it blows them all away, in my humble opinion. Like,
let's continue this conversation because, okay, I think having trophies are big. There are a lot of trophy hunters out there. There are a lot of people that double dip on the games that will play on PlayStation 4 or 5 and then go and play it again on PC so they can get all the bells and whistles. I think this is brilliant. I don't know why it took this long. That's fine, but let's talk about it.
So for me, it's the canary in the coal mine. That's what this is. Like,
good point.
I'm not a trophy hunter. That's not what I am. It doesn't really. I'm not an achievement hunter. I'm not a trophy hunter. I enjoy the game. Actually, Ghost was the only one that I almost platinum because that game was just so fun that eventually I clicked into my master build and I was just murking every fool I see, and I was, come at me, bro. That's where I was at some point in that game. So I almost finished every piece of that game, even all the side content. What I didn't do is finish Iki Island because I knew that I'd be double dipping, right?
Okay, that's fair.
I am one of those, right? But the reason why I call this a canary in the coal mine for me is we've said it multiple times. You don't have to listen to what they do look at what Xbox did 3 years ago. That's what they're doing, right? They realize the money is on PC. They'll talk about how they won't release it on PC, then they release it on PC. They say, oh, we're going to make our console players feel special. And then the day and date gets closer and closer and closer and closer, right? And this will be just like all of those other experiments where they will see this amazing game not hit the heights it should because they released it a year or so later. And that'll be another mark on the fact that, hey, we need to bring our window closer together. Now, why this excites me, and I bought it because, first off, I'm not buying it for $70. I bought it out the door, tax and everything else is $52, which usually that's a little much for me, even because I'm usually $40 or less on my double dipping situation. But I love this game, so I'll do that. Dragon's Dogma 2 was $40 day one. PC gives you those options. But what's exciting for me in this is once you start releasing it on PC in a more consistent fashion, as Xbox has done, now you're putting your achievements / trophies on the service, as Xbox has done. You're not expecting that people will create new accounts. No, they're rolling their old accounts. The PlayStation Plus accounts will then sign in to this PC to give you your achievements, continue, as Xbox has done, right? At some point, it no longer becomes righteous and advantageous to continue to charge double dippers more. Eventually, the idea of a unified license becomes closer and closer to your eventuality, because now no longer are you treating the PC market as a secondary market. You're treating it as a gaming market wholeheartedly, which is what Xbox is doing right now. PlayStation's not there yet, but they're getting there. How do I know this? Because they're now offering trophy support on games that are not on that platform. That tells me a storefront is closely on its way.
Yes.
Right? It's close. And they're not cultivating new customers. Well, they're trying to cultivate new customers, but they know that the old customers who love their games are also coming there with you. And you will not want to piss off your old customers, because by and large, there are so many new customers that are buying your stuff when they come out day and date, that good PR you will get from me, who gets access to the game because it's available on this and now it's there, because at this point you can't tell me that you don't know that I already own it. Guess what? You're making me sign up with my same PlayStation account in the game. So you know I already own it. You know what I'm saying? These are all steps and moves that Microsoft has made. And when they made them, arrows were flying everywhere, right?
The virtual tomatoes, if you will.
The virtual tomatoes, they're wiping them off their face. And as soon as it becomes old hat, guess who's following, right? So in this instance, I am taking the arrows so that you, dear gamer, at some point will get day and date and not have to pay extra for it, right? Now, we just spent all this time talking about how PlayStation is cash strapped. So why would they do that? In the world where the gaming market is not just one console pool and one PC pool and it's one big pool, right? It is advantageous to do these pro-consumer moves in order to open up wallets even wider, right? We hear PlayStation is cash strapped all the time. Why is Microsoft not cash strapped? Because they make a lot of these moves. That's why you'll see people who normally don't buy microtransactions buy microtransactions, right? Yep. You give me access to this awesome game day and date, maybe on Game Pass. Now I'm likely to buy some drip, even though that's not really me. I'm likely to, it's like the movie service. If I get my movie ticket for free, I'm okay buying popcorn. That's how they separate you from your wallet. If you insist on that $70 game, they'll only buy that once and they'll never look at your services again, because it was already too much of an uplift to get in, right? Microsoft is eating on the fact that you give them 10 and then 15 and then 10 and then 5 and that's how they continue to eat on a daily basis. So with them, Sony, putting trophies on there, that is telling me they are walking that same path, and eventually they will get to where Microsoft is today. And that makes me super happy. So to me, kudos to Sony for taking that step. I want to see what their marketplace looks like. I want to see what their launchers look like. I want them to go there. I want them to release these amazing games day and date across the board. Let them do it. right? Because then they won't be so cash strapped anymore. And when you're there day and date, you could command $70 and you'll get more people to pay for it, right? You give it to me a year later and you say $70, I go, ha, 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 deals.gg. That's what I'll do.
Great point.
But if it's an amazing game and it's available everywhere day and date, I am more likely to pay that cost day one, right? So again, I think this is all about the adults in the room understanding, looking over at their counterparts and going, how is it that they keep quietly like outshining us as far as profit? This is how they're doing it. Okay, well, let's start walking in those steps. And that's what it looks like they're doing here. I am happy about it.
Let me ask you, before we go bring in Hargeet, answer the question, though. Does day and date on PC devalue the PlayStation?
It's like saying, does watching a movie on Netflix devalue the movie-going experience?
There you go.
Does, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, it
point.
does devalue the console experience if you're a man baby who only thinks that you're just this special snowflake. You know, I'm sorry. Like, forgive me. You know, no one can have it. My TV must come with an exclusive movie. Like, I'm sorry. You enjoy playing it where you enjoy playing, and
Indeed.
it will never be taken away from you, right? Yep. And oh, by the way, when it's available in those other places, they will get funds to make a new version of that thing that you love playing. So why are you complaining?
Yeah, well, listen, great way to close out that particular question. And again, I'm right there with you. I think that why would you care if like, for instance, here's a perfect example of what Kay is saying. I know that Hellblade 2 is going to be locked at 30. I'm going to play it on my Series X. I got a tip of the spear TV, and I am good. Now, people are going to play it on a lot of people are going to be, well, I'm going to play it on PC because I have a rig. I think that's great. I'm a congratulator, not a hater. So if that's how you want to play, good on you.
It's your choice.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
I think Joe.
And this is why I always say hashtag Boom gets a PC. He gets it. It's his choice.
Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
it.
Hargeet Chani, let's bring you in on this conversation because obviously this is a two-tiered convo, right? Obviously the back end is the devaluing of the PlayStation. I think that's ridiculous. I think if you want a PlayStation, you're going to buy a PlayStation and enjoy the shit out of it because that's what you want. If you want a PC, go build yourself a $5,000 rig and get every bell and whistle. And because you want to do that, go ahead. Also, a part of this is the fact that we're seeing this layover that's coming the way of Ghost of Tsushima, the first game that's going to introduce trophies. I think day and date is around the corner. Now, let me be clear. When I say around the corner, I don't mean this fall. And we know that, Hargeet, because Sony told us so. They don't have a first-party game until minimum of March 2025. If I were a betting kind of a guy, and I really don't like to gamble, folks, because I like my money, I would say that whatever that game is in 2025, in March, is going to be the first due launch, and it's going to open up the floodgates, and as it should. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, and look, I think the next few games they have are going to be multiplayer anyway. So those games are already going to be multi-plat. They're going to go day and date PC anyway. So if you're looking at maybe Concord comes out, maybe that comes out this year, maybe it comes out next year, Fair Games or something like that. Marathon, we know, is going to be everywhere, right? So, and MLB The Show, that's a multi-plat, right? So, like, what is their next game? I'm guessing Wolverine. I'm guessing that's the next game. No, sorry, Venom. Venom is going to be the next game. That might be fall next year, right? If it's fall next year, is that going to be day and date? It's a possibility. We don't know at this point, but it is a possibility that it's either like day and date or very, very close, like within a few months that it comes to PC. And they're eventually going to get to the point of saying it doesn't matter. Let's just release it day and date and see what happens, right? You're going to have to hit something. That's a good one to do it with, right? Because you've already sold Spider-Man 2 already. So this is a Miles Morales on top of that. let's take the hit and see what happens. Let's say, like is this going to be a good amount like Helldivers 2, or is this going to be a nothing? And we basically sold all of it on PlayStation, right? If we get that data back, or they get that data back, we could see what that means to them as far as sales of games. And if it's significant, it's like 30%, 40% bump if they did that day and date versus say a 15% bump or 20% bump. Hey, you got something there. That's 10, 15% extra that you sold just because you did day and date, right? And then they can just take that and say, all right, well, would that make sense to just make that money or not, right? Did we have a perceptible like hit, right? As far as the sales were lower than we expected on PlayStation. I don't think that's going to be the case. So I think it's a good, test to do with Venom to say, let's see what happens if we do a stay and date. There's going to be a community uproar with the 100 people who care, and then the rest of them don't give a crap, right? They're just gonna just go get the game on whatever platform they want to play it on, and they'll see what it ends up meaning, right? So just like it happened here, by the way, on Xbox, there were a number of people who were pro Xbox, I won't mention names, who went crazy and said, why did you put this on day and date and PC? Well, I mean, like, if you haven't followed this, the entire purpose of this was to take Windows and put it in the freaking living room. It was always going to be the case that it was going to go day and date PC. That was always the plan, right? So for Microsoft to do what they promised to do in the beginning was just something they finally did. They were supposed to do that anyway, right? So that wasn't something that should have been surprising. They did what they were supposed to do anyway, right? So fair enough. It's now PlayStation's turn to try to see if they can get enough revenue from it. And again, why not? It's a large market. The majority of the new generations are moving towards PC. Take advantage. Go get those players, right? Acquire new customers. That's what you want to do. So go do that. And doing it day and date gives you the enthusiasm right at the launch, right? For those players to say, oh, cool, this just came out. Let me go play it. Oh, I can't play it where I want to play. Oh, well, okay. And then they forget about it, right? Instead, it's like, oh, I can go buy it right now on Steam. Let me go play it, right? Get the bump, get the sales bump, right? And they'll see what they get out of that. The trophies thing is cool. Like, there's obviously things that already kind of do all these things in the background, but whatever. They're going to do this official. You can do trophy thing, directly by logging into your account, and you can get trophies. You can get the Steam achievements. Cool, right? I think that's a cool thing to do as far as like if it's a Microsoft game, you get your Microsoft achievements, and if you're on Steam, you get the Steam achievements, Epic achievements, whatever it is, right? Cool. Those are nice things to do. I don't think it's the end of the world, but cool if people like that kind of thing. But as far as them doing day and date, I mean, if it's me looking at it, Hiroki Totoki's the one doing this. He's got to look at the financials and say Helldivers proves that putting it in day and date is a good idea. It's just a good idea. It gave them such a bump. It gave them so much more community-driven growth that it was just worth it. And if you decide to say, hey, I'm going to put my marketing dollars in when I'm launching this game, and it happens to be on both platforms, and it gets me that bump for new customers that I can acquire because they normally are not on my PlayStation, do it. Like, you don't have to lock yourself anymore. You're already bringing it to the other platform. Just put it there and get the the bump of customers. It just makes sense. So I would suggest they do it. But look, we know that the next few games they release, they're going to be day and date PC anyway. They're all these multiplayer games. So that's going to be the pattern. And you're just going to keep getting reinforced that every time you do this, it turns out, oh, putting it on PC was a good idea. It bumped your number of players. It was a good plan to keep your game running, unlike, say, Destruction All-Stars or whatever. I think that was the game, right? That failed miserably. Maybe if you had put it on more platforms, it might have saved it, right? But you didn't. Right. So maybe this is the path you should take, and your games might sustain themselves better, especially since you don't put them in a subservice day and date. Right. So, hey, why not? Right. Let's get those day and dates going. Venom's a low hit as far as a game because you've already spent majority of the money already because of Spider-Man 2. Take that one as a chance and see, hey, does it work? Can we do day and date? Do we get enough of an incremental bump? Is it worth doing day and date? And see what you get, right? It just kind of makes sense. It aligns. It's a good potential game to do it with. So why not give it a shot, right? if they can do that and it works out, then we'll see what happens next, right? By then, I assume they'll also have a new CEO. I don't know when that happens, but supposedly within a year, we're supposed to have a new CEO for PlayStation, and then we'll see what happens from there. But that would be my guess. It's a great test to do Venom that way. Up to then, all these games that are coming out are basically going to be day-and-date PC anyway. There might be an Astro game with PS5 Pro. There might be. That'd be kind of an obvious thing to do, right? To have a demo game for your PS5 Pro. I'd assume that may not be day and date, but again, it's really just a demo game like the last one was. So that one will probably just stay on PS5. But yeah, outside of that, I think, this is a good idea. Test it out, see what you get. Small game like Venom, great test, right? To see what it does. You don't have to go crazy and take one of your next big games, right? But at least take this. You've already paid for it. You've already gotten your revenue for most of it. I assume they've got the sales so far. If they haven't, they'll get there hopefully soon enough to make that money back. So why not give it a shot? See what you get. It's a good potential play to see if you can get that day and date. I think eventually they're going to be there. There's really just no choice. I think they're eventually going to have to be there. The idea that it devalues the console. Okay, now this is just one of those oddities that exist because of the world we live in, where console was the way to get into gaming for some of these worlds, right? Whereas we had PC for a long time, but somehow they were like a totally different world as far as what games were being played where, and that's gone, right? These consoles are PCs, and so the games are all over the place. They're the same games. I just don't see why this is now an issue. Like when I talk to people like you, Boom, right? I live on console because I want the convenience. A lot of people are like that.
Yep, that's me. That's basically me in a nutshell. I just want to press the
There's nothing wrong with
and
that.
play. That's it. Yeah.
Right. And so if that's your world, cool. If you've got a kid, you don't want them on a PC because there's way too much potential for them to get in trouble. You want a console experience that's locked down. Okay, cool. Here's a device for you, right? That's a way to go, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? And that world still exists. This, again, it's that the 100 people who care that will say, oh my God, my console lost value. Did it though? Can you play the games? You can. Yeah. Is it really going to change much? No. I think it's more interesting if Mario showed up on PlayStation. That's much more interesting, right? That would be an interesting switch, right? But pun intended. But outside of that, I just don't why does it matter if it's on PC, right? It's a different crowd, and you're in this case you're already doing it, right? It's not like PlayStation is just for the first time putting games on PC. No, all their games are on PC now. They've decided to do this. They're doing it already.
Yeah.
Now it's just a question of timing, and to me, Gaz, as part of Game On Daily, has the opposite view. It's like, no, I like them, having a delay, and that way there's a reason to have the console. That's cool for console wariness because he's in that 100 people who loves the console war. I like to play games.
I saw his tweet today. I saw his tweet.
So I have the different view, and I'm sure Asa has the same view. It's like, where do I play my game? I just want to play my game. Is it in VR? It's like it just doesn't matter, right? Ultimately, if the company is making enough money to make the next game, fantastic. If people are being able to play the game where they want to play it, fantastic. What's the issue, right? They're not supporting their competitor. They're just saying, I'm putting it on PC, which I'm already doing, and I'll do it at the same time. And that way I gain both customers at the same time. To me, that just seems great. Like you said, with Hellblade, I'm going to do it on both. I'm going to play it on both. I'm going to see what it does on the Series X. I have it. And then I'm going to just switch over to PC and see what does it look like here, right? I have both options at the same time. And my save will probably be on the same, I can cross save, cross progression. Baby. Right? It's so good. I don't have to worry about that.
Dual entitlement.
Exactly, right? So I can play it there and say, this is how it looks here. It's how it flows. This is how the gameplay works. Okay, cool. Now let me try it on my 4090. Cool. This is how it looks here. Okay, I'll just choose this one or that one, whatever, right? But I get to see what it's like on both, right? And that's a beautiful thing. I get to play it everywhere and see what it's like and choose what I want to play, right? I still majority play on console because it's convenient. I just like it. It's convenient. That's it, right? I totally know PCs in and out. That's fine. But again, I just like the convenience. I just turn on my console and play my game. So like, fine. I don't think it devalues the console at all. The console gives you something that the PC doesn't, which is that convenience. Now, if Microsoft manages to make it where the PC is like the console, oh boy, is that going to change things. So
going to
we'll
change
see
a
what
lot
they
of
do with
things.
the next gen, right? Yeah. If they can manage to make Windows 12 have like a console mode, wow, that is going to change things massively. But we will see. We will see if they go down that path or not. But to me, no, it does not change the value of the console. Xbox was never going to sell 400 million consoles, right? They still ended up selling near 60 million. Was it 58, something like that? Xbox Ones, right? Yeah. That was about their target. That was what they were going to get, right? The best they've done is the 360, which was 80 something million, something like that.
86
right?
Or 87, something like that.
Yeah, they were like neck and neck with PS3, right? Like they were pretty much within like a couple of percent of each other. So that was really good. They both were right there. And then PS4, they went to 117 and Xbox was like half of that, right? So that was kind of where that went, even though they decided, hey, we're going to put our games on PC. It didn't really change their sales trajectory. It just changed who could play their games when. And so I don't see that changing here either. I mean, so I would be surprised to see the PS5 suddenly says, oh, instead of selling, 15 million consoles this year or 12 million consoles, we sold 3. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're still going to sell their consoles. Yep. So they're still going to get to their levels. They're still going to, it may not be like 100% their target. Maybe it'll be a little less, but it'll be the same thing. It's not going to be that different, right?
They're going to sell software, and that's going to make them the money, Hargeet. And that's the ticker right there.
Yeah, the big headache they have is attracting customers based on games, right? Since they don't have anything this fall, what are they going to do? Right. So they can't market Call of Duty anymore. That used to be their big draw. They don't have that anymore. What are they going to do? They don't have a God of War. They don't have a Horizon. They don't have anything else. That could be a hit on their sales just because they don't have that. Flip side, the other platform happens to have Call of Duty and will be marketing the heck out of it. That could flip the sales numbers there. But again, that if that was a console problem, well, Xbox has put their games on PC ever since, like, what was it, 2017, 16, whatever it was, when they made that decision. So
Hargeet, I have a bit of an epiphany that I want your thoughts on that just came to mind while you were having this. You were explaining the truth to people.
It's the show of epiphanies. I love it.
It really is. It really is. I was just thinking about it. I'm just like, hey, now.
Yeah.
So we already know that it's a loss leader in the console space. It's always been a loss leader, right?
Yeah.
And that's the reason why Microsoft, in general, well, don't talk about the low performing console. Leave the advocates out of this whole situation.
The advocates.
But by and large, the consoles that push the envelope are loss leaders, right? And because of that, you now have Microsoft kind of making overtures to where they want to live in a world where that loss leader is not part of it. They just want to focus on the software, right? In the world, and you just mentioned this, in the world where Microsoft then threads that needle and makes console-like performance or console-like experience close enough to consoles, or PC performance close enough to consoles, to the point where Boom now goes, hey, now maybe I might jump in, right? Does that not also work in Sony's favor? Because then it's a loss leader for them as well. Now they don't have to worry about R&D and all of that. They can just sell their wares, which by and large is better than most people's wares, right? Because they make those bangers. And now all you got to do is focus on your bangers, and these guys have got you covered. No R&D necessary anyway. Am I wrong in that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things to think about there, right? Like long term, that has always been the thing, right? I've been kind of saying this, in a decade or two, it's going to be tough to sell a console when your TV can just run the game, when your computer is going to be a general purpose device that just easily runs the game. It has a console mode and it just does it, right? There's going to be, and a lot of players are moving to mobile, to PC, right? That is kind of the general trend. And our devices are getting so powerful. Now you have games, AAA games being released directly on phones, right? That is going to keep happening. Oh, we got the slanderous one. So I think we're going to have that happen.
PC.
anyway, right? So as far as that device under your TV, it's going to become less relevant at some point. I don't know when that is, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. I don't know. But at some point, it will become less relevant.
Thursday, Hargeet. It was last
Oh,
Thursday.
boy.
We'll talk about that later.
Everborn
Just
console betrayer saga. Continue. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just because of the natural progression of power within devices, right? They keep getting more and more powerful, and at some point, you just get to the to the point of like, this is just good enough. I don't need it to look or play better than this, right? At some point, we'll say, hey, it's got 4K, 240 frames with path tracing and all these particle effects and everything, and dude, I just don't care after this. I don't need anything more than this. It's good enough, right? So whenever it gets to that point, which we're not that far off from, we'll just get to the point of saying, I don't need an upgrade. So my TV processor that can just do all that in 20 years is good enough. I just don't care. It just deliver me the game here. I'll plug in a memory card that the game can store itself on, and I can play it, and I get a controller, and I'm good to go, right? So at some point, that's going to happen. As far as Sony, this is an interesting one, right? Sony is a company that's based on consumer electronics, right?
Yep.
So is their modus operandi, because they do this now, content, or is it electronics? Because they do content. They have movies, they have music, right?
Right.
It has nothing to do with the hardware necessarily, but they do sell you a TV. They do sell you music players. They do sell you audio systems. They do sell you headphones. So they do potentially tangentially still do consumer electronics based on those areas. What would they do in
those areas, though? They don't subsidize the cost to you. You buy your TV for $2K, it's yours.
Right? Exactly, and they charge you.
I don't
a
think
premium.
they'll subsidize. Yes, I don't think they'll continue subsidizing a console if they can just put it on your TV.
And that's the question mark, right? Will there be a need for them to keep doing this? And at what point would it just be worthless to them, right? So it might be more beneficial for them to follow suit with what Microsoft is doing and instead create an ecosystem, right? Steam, for instance, is an ecosystem. It has its own, big picture mode. It has its own launcher. It has its own way to publish games. It has its own store, et cetera, right? So it's its own ecosystem. You get achievements on there, all that, right? Equivalently, they could do something like that and say, well, we have our own ecosystem. It's the PlayStation Network, and you can access that wherever you want. I don't care if you're on a phone. I don't care if you're on a TV. I don't care if you're on, a PC or a Mac. You can just go ahead and access our stuff, right? Okay, fair enough. That might be a path that they decide to go to. If they decide to go down that path, which they probably will end up having to do anyways, then yeah, it doesn't make sense to keep making a box. I don't know how far out that is, though. That's the question, right? There might be a good another 10, 15 years of console market that makes sense. It may fizzle after that, right? And we'll have to see. We'll probably witness it, right? When it's like, what are these console things anymore? Let's just get out of that stupid mode. And we'll, I just buy my controller that I like.
Hey,
and
record players still exist.
They still exist.
You still buy one. Yeah. Record players, they still exist. It is.
Yeah, vinyls came back in a big way as well. So you can play on those record players.
And that's fair. It's a question of how do you get that library, right? Vinyls were a standard, and they could play on any vinyl player, not on this specific device, right? That had the cartridge slot. Right. So those are the headaches you run into with this. Thankfully, these are PCs, right? So you could potentially emulate any of it anywhere you want, right? So if that catalog is viable on anything, it can be done. Right. So these are interesting times. We will see where it ends up going. But I like where Microsoft is going as far as and like you're saying, Sony's always a few years behind. They're going to do the same bloody thing. But we just got the news that they're looking at a forwards and backwards compatibility team at Microsoft, right?
Yep.
And people might gloss over the forwards and
that's
backwards, not just backwards, but forwards compatibility, right? That is something to take that into account, right? What happens if I start moving platform to platform? What happens? That's something that Sony's going to have to look at some point, right? Because this is going to happen. Whether we like it or not, it's going to happen. We're going to get to a point where people are going to jump to whatever platform they're used to. Kids play on tablets. Why? Because that's what's available to them. They get a tablet from their parents, and they just play with touch controls, and that's what they play with, and then they're used to that, right? They don't really necessarily jump to console. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, right? But if everything becomes that in PC, you have to kind of go where the customer is, and that's what's going to end up happening. Hey,
man, I keep throwing console controllers at my kids. They do not care. They just want to touch the damn screen. Right? Like,
no, they want to play on a tablet. Yeah,
and as we've been saying, like, there's AR, there's VR. We don't know where that ends up, right? If AR takes off, that could be the platform of the future, right? We don't know. We just don't know what happens next, right? There's always tech improvements, always tech evolutions. What we get next, we don't know, right? So we'll see what the next revolutionary thing is that changes the way we game. But something might happen, right? It may not, but it may. And if it does, then we'll have something totally different. And right, so you just have to keep things open and see where things go. So yes, I think there is the potential for PlayStation to decide we can pull back on the hardware if there's no point to making it, right? If they can make enough of them and make money off of their store, fair enough. If they can alternatively just say we are a Steam competitor on PC, right? Or here's a better option if they can work it. Go to Apple and say, why don't we make a PlayStation store on Mac? And we can bring all the
Apple TV
PlayStation games right onto the Mac, right? And become one of the big stores for games on that platform, right? Is that a viable thing? And you might say that's crazy. Well, think of it this way: both of them are based on BSD. So is it really that far off, right? So Darwin was a fork off of BSD, and so is PlayStation. It's a BSD based OS. Is it really that far off to say you can make that OS work with the little customizations that might be needed? It's not really. It actually has some potential viability. So you could say, all right, let's see if that's a viable option for PlayStation, same OS, to just work with Mac, and say we're the store for Apple, for big AAA games. It's a viable thing, right? Now, Apple may not like it, but it also gives them some shielding as far as the regulators of the world saying, hey, you've locked every freaking place you're at with your own store. Why don't you have other stores, right? Now you have a big competitor on your, a partner store on your platform, right? So plenty of myriads of options out there, right? Is it viable that PlayStation stops making consoles? It's probably going to happen at some point. It's just a question of when, right?
Yeah.
The last company to do it is going to be Nintendo. They're going to keep Nintendoing forever until Nintendo players decide, no, you got to put it somewhere else. If they don't reward them, they'll keep doing it. It's up to them, right? It's up to the customer to say, I'm not going to buy it again. But unfortunately, us Nintendo players will buy it again.
Well, I mean, listen, Hargeet, you're absolutely killing it, because I think you bring a lot of good points, and I think there are going to be some big changes for PlayStation that a lot of their diehard, or the 100 or 200, you said, the loudest in the community, are just not going to like. Viking, I do want to bring you in on the conversation. Do you think that a PlayStation console has become, quote unquote, devalued based on the fact that we are on the cusp, and again, not this year, because there's no game to drop on the PS5 as well at the same time as PC, unless it's Concord. Now, I don't think it's Concord, because they wouldn't have said there are no first-party games coming out for until 2025. Where do you kind of sit with that? The devaluing.
I don't think it devalues the console. I think what it does, it could potentially, but I think what it does, it devalues the online conversation of the console in general. And what I mean by that is, even a high level C-suite executive had in his profile, what did he buy PlayStation? What does he play PlayStation for? Exclusives.
Yep.
That's the online conversation around most people on Twitter, is like, I have a PlayStation for exclusives. Now you drop that day and date, that argument evaporated. Like, that whole thing right there is gone. It doesn't devalue your box. Casual players don't give a shit. Their box is their box, and they continue to play Fortnite, Call of Duty, for FIFA and all that, right? But it does get rid of that perception that the reason why I have a PlayStation 5 is for exclusives. And then, because like what do people say? Well, just get a PC, like, so you can play Xbox games, right? Like that's what the conversation has been over the past like year. Is like, why do I need an Xbox when I can just buy a PC? And now everybody's gonna be like, why do I need a PlayStation to buy? And this is just the online. This is 2% of all the gamers.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But like, it stops everybody. Like, it stops Mike Ybarra from putting that into his Twitter profile or whatever. So no, I don't think it devalues the console at all. I think what it does, it just devalues the perception of what PlayStation is. We're heading into publisher wars is what we're going into instead of console wars now.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's not going to be about that. And then like, what's crazy is like the new generation. Once those games do start going day and date on PC, which I think is going to start with Venom, because I think by beginning of next year we'll have that Spider-Man 2 port. If you already haven't played the leaked Brazilian edition already. Hey, Brazil be going crazy with they be going crazy. And then like months later, April time frame, May time frame, Venom will drop, and that'll be a perfect time to do.
I agree.
Day and date is with Venom, or they could just wait until that time frame to bundle them together, Spider-Man 2 and Venom, and that's the only way you can get it on PC. And then PC players pay, $100 for the bundle versus it being separated. So who knows how they do it, but day and date's happening next year.